the Sideload, where I'm not going to let some stupid sore throat stop me from recording this intro. I'm your host, Will Sattelberg. Today, we welcome editor-in-chief of Phandroid, Nick Gray, to the show. Nick does some of the best camera comparisons in the game for my money, and today he joins us to talk all about smartphone cameras in 2026, his time with Oppo and Vivo's recent flagships, and whether better sensors will ever actually make their way to North America. It's all coming up right after this message from our sponsor, NordVPN. You're probably already trying your best at online security. You don't repeat passwords, you're careful about where you log into your bank account, and anytime you get a weird email, you are always careful if there's a link involved. But if you aren't browsing the web with a VPN, you're missing out on a crucial layer of protection, and that's where NordVPN comes in. Without NordVPN, your IP address and browsing habits are an open book to your internet service provider and potential bad actors on public Wi-Fi. NordVPN helps fix that by encrypting your internet traffic so what you're doing isn't just floating around the network. With more than 9,000 VPN servers covering more than 188 locations, it's also built to stay fast, so you're not stuck choosing between security and a usable connection. And it comes with features that actually matter day to day. Threat protection helps block malicious sites and trackers, while a built-in kill switch helps prevent accidental leaks if your VPN connection drops. If you want to stop risking your data on public Wi-Fi, and trust me, you do, you can save 76% on a 2-year subscription, plus score 4 additional months for free just by going to nordvpn.com/9to5off and signing up for a 2-year subscription. That's nordvpn.com/9to5off to claim this offer. Thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this show. We've talked a lot recently on this show about how boring the North American Android smartphone lineup is. And it turns out if you go outside of North America, things get a lot more interesting. And so to talk a little bit about the latest from brands like Oppo and Vivo, I'm thrilled to welcome Nick Gray of Phandroid to the show. Nick, how are you?
I am doing excellent. It's a great day, besides the construction outside that you guys might hear in the background. But other than that, it's great.
Listener, I will do my best to make sure you don't hear construction in the background. You've published a handful of camera comparisons recently on the Phandroid YouTube channel, as you often do, comparing the Oppo Find X9 Ultra and the Vivo X300 Ultra against a bunch of various phones, including each other, but also Samsung devices, the iPhone, etc. I'm very jealous that you've gotten to use both of these phones. I'm more specifically jealous that you have gotten to use the cameras on both of these phones.
Yeah.
You should tell me a little bit about both of them.
You definitely should be jealous. Like anyone who loves smartphone photography is missing out if they haven't used these two phones. Like as you mentioned, phones between North America and international markets, there's a clear distinction. There's, fun phones, and then there's the boring phones that we get here. Usually just the Samsungs and the Motorola's. Yeah, they're okay, but they don't really push the limits. And
especially this year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our last episode was literally talking about how like Motorola is just relaunching the same devices.
So
at a more expensive price point.
To be fair, I was at the Moto launch last week and I was using these phones and I was deciding between, just a short form video or long form video. And I looked at the phones and I was like, no one's going to know the difference between these phones this year and the phones last year. Like the bodies are
just
identical.
Colors and finishes.
Yeah. And even last year they had like 14 different colors. So you're not even going to know.
Exactly. You wouldn't even know. You'd be like, oh, I guess I forgot that one.
Someone was like, there's a wood one. I'm like, didn't we get a wood one like 2 years ago?
It's dark, but it's darker this year.
I could have stained it.
Or lighter? I actually can't remember.
I could have stained it. I could have scratched off, sanded it and stained it, and you wouldn't know the difference. No, but for these two phones, Oppo and Vivo have done an incredible job. I mean, as they've done for the last couple of years, their Ultra series has always focused mainly on the cameras themselves. This time around, both of them have two 200 megapixel sensors, one for the main, one for the 3x telephoto. Though the focal lengths are a little bit different between the Vivo and the Oppo, which is a little bit annoying at times. Once you get past that on the Vivo, you can, kind of settle in. But I don't know, like just being able to use these phones in I used them for the Motorola launch event as my main camera. I didn't take my mirrorless camera to capture videos. You have a nearly 1-inch sensor on the main sensor. And it's just incredible. Like, just the photos and the videos that you can capture out of these things is phenomenal compared to anything else that's on the market right now internationally, but also way better, especially compared to anything we have here in the US.
Well, it's, it was one of those things where once you started to see 1-inch sensors or near 1-inch sensors pop into phones, in China and then sometimes throughout Europe a few years ago, I was like, look, like North America has lagged behind camera advancements and China and so on for a couple of years now. But certainly we will get these, at the time I was probably like, by 2024, certainly the Pixel will have a near 1-inch sensor or something. And it's like, no, like all of these companies have proven themselves, Samsung, Google, Motorola have proven themselves like completely uninterested in really pushing the envelope at all on their hardware specs. Like we get new sensors every now and then, but even when they're new, it's like there very little actually does change generation over generation. It's mostly done on the software side, and I feel like we've sort of not even just hit a peak, but receded a little bit. I often feel like I don't like the cameras I'm testing as much as I did a few years ago, when technically maybe the HDR wasn't as good, but they had a little more character.
Yeah, it's one of those things when the brands start focusing more on, what can we do on the software side in order to make it better. And to be fair, there's a lot still to do on the software side that you can do improvements, except then you start getting into, well, I preferred that look versus this look. And, start talking about, okay, are we doing, how many images are we stacking for HDR? Are we stacking 12 images for HDR? Are we stacking 3? Are we, trying to make sure there's no shadows in the photos whatsoever, which honestly, like, while it might look good on your screen of your phone, when you actually look at it and you want a moody photo, you lose all of that character with it. And with these phones, just to give you an example, both of them have, as I mentioned, the two 200 megapixel sensors for the main and the 3x telephoto. That sensor on the main camera, almost a 1-inch type sensor, and the second one is slightly larger for the telephoto than the main 200 megapixel sensor that we get on the Galaxy S26 Ultra. So not only is it better than the main sensor, but it's being used for the telephoto, which means the depth of field is so much shallower. And you know how bad the 3x telephoto camera is. That's a 10 megapixel sensor on the Samsung. It's
useless,
practically pointless.
So why is it there?
It's like this.
It's sort of the
big.
2 megapixel depth sensor of its time,
right? Like not even. And I don't know, like you just match things up. And honestly, the 3x telephoto is my favorite sensor on both of these for capturing photos and videos, just because the sensor is so large, the lens is incredible, but the depth of field and the compression that you get with your subjects, honestly, like I got some shots at the Motorola event and was showing off to somebody, and they're like, you got that on your mirrorless camera? And I'm like, no, this was on the Oppo. And you have to like make sure that you're framing something really close to the lens so that you get that bokeh effect, for the thing that you're shooting a little bit further off. But like once you know how to shoot, you can make it look like you're using a professional camera with these. And, there's always going to be that comparison of like, no, it's not the larger sensor size that you get on a mirrorless and all that. But you can still recreate that if you know the right angles.
That's crazy. I don't think the words, the 3x telephoto lens is my favorite lens on this phone, has ever come out of my mouth. Like I can't think of a time where I've ever been, even remove 3x, like usually I can't remember a time where I've been like, the telephoto lens is the one I want to shoot with on any device. And it's not like I haven't reviewed phones with good telephoto options, but it's not, it's never been like that.
And honestly, awesome. Like I kind of said that a couple years back, like when we only had a 3x telephoto, but usually it was an inferior sensor. And, just zooming on the main sensor, getting it to like 2.9 just so that it wouldn't make the switch. And you're like, this is a better picture with that larger sensor with the shallower depth of field. But I would always default to, oh, I love the aspect of the ultra wide, fitting more into your frame, getting those unique angles with that. I would say that's still kind of the disappointing side of both of these phones is the ultra wide is still kind of meh. There's not really a huge improvement over any competing devices. They focus so much on that main and the 3x telephoto on both of these phones that they kind of just forgot the other ones. To be fair, the Oppo does also have a secondary periscope camera at 10x. And that one there, the 10x sensor is larger than I think the 5x sensor that's on the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra. So the low light performance is going to be better on that one, and you're getting, twice as far when you're zooming in comparison.
So as someone who has access to these phones that are otherwise not sold in North America, right? Because even my, and I was phones editor at Android Police for several years, but even my experience using Oppo and Vivo phones, like we usually left those to, James Peckham or Dom Preston, like our UK team, that it was just easier for them to get the devices. Like, what is it like? What is it like swapping back to, I'm reviewing and I understand the order is flipped here, but I'm reviewing the S26 or something, the S26 Ultra. Like, does it just feel, do you feel disappointment every time you take a photo? Like, do these sorts of phones like sort of ruin the North American lineup of devices?
I would say so. Like, so for me, I've been a Pixel user for the last 4 to 5 years. I think since maybe like the Pixel 6, I moved into it and I was like, okay, this is the device I'm settling into. And then, as I go from review to review, I'd go back to my Pixel. And I've used the Oppo phones for, the last 4 or 5 years as well. But with their high-end devices, one of the issues is that they've been for China only. And so they would have the Chinese ROM, they wouldn't have the Play Store. You could sideload the Play Store, but then still not all of the Google services would work properly. So you could kind of like trudge through it for like a week or two, and then you're like, this isn't worth it. I'm going to go back to my Pixel.
Yeah.
And so, and as you know, the Pixel isn't the best device as far as performance goes. It's very unique with its cameras. It's not technically as good as some of the other ones, but they're doing some software tricks to make it seem like it's better. Right. I personally always have issues with skin tones. My face always looks gray when I'm recording video. I'm like, my face does not look gray.
Yeah.
I should be
gray
pinkish.
Is a problem gray is a problem in general with the Pixel camera, I think.
Yeah.
Like it has, as they have focused more on like HDR and maybe more specifically Ultra HDR, I feel like it has, you mentioned the fear of shadows basically, but I remember, and this is more on the video side, but I remember sitting at the Pixel 8 launch event. So this is 2023, and I'm sitting next to Taylor Kearns, who's now at Android Authority. But we were working together and we're watching this Pixel 8 announcement, and they showed off Video Boost for the first time.
Yeah.
And they showed this on this like moody, the pre-edit version was like this moody, like rain or like post-rain nighttime street, right? So it's wet, but it's not actively raining and all that. And there's all these lights from the buildings around. And then they showed the Video Boost version, and it just like got rid of like all of the shadow. Everything was just brighter. Like all of the moodiness was just gone. I remember leaning over to him and being like,
"Is this better?
That looks worse, right? Like,
right.
You also think that looks worse than what we just saw, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, I do." And like that's sort of my feelings on the Pixel camera in general, which is that like it's not that it looks bad. It's just that I'm like, I remember. It's not even that I remember these looking better. I remember these images giving me more of an emotional
there's more
reaction.
Character to them. There's when you take out the highlights and the lowlights and everything's just spread around evenly, you just miss out on the character that you get when there's a black scene in the area, or there's an area that should be blown out. You shouldn't see the perfect sky every time. And yeah, when you do camera comparisons, you're like, okay, well, which one has better HDR? Like this one shows the sky when the other one is blown out. But you got to win some and you got to lose some in order to have I don't know, a more opinionated camera, I think. But like with that, like going from a Pixel user last year, I actually started using the Oppo Find X9 Pro as my main device. I went with Oppo on a trip to Mexico, and they handed us the devices, and they're like, take some pictures. It's like Day of the Dead celebration. Took like 2,000 pictures over the course of 3 or 4 days. But like super impressed with the phone, and I moved my eSIM into the phone and used that essentially until I got the new Ultra. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm switching over to Oppo. And the reason was because for years it was just so hard on the software side, because
I was just about to ask what's that
they
like?
Weren't the global ROMs. You know, it was just a hassle. But with the 9 Pro, it was launched globally. I think they launched it in like 12 markets or something, not a whole lot. And then this one here, they're launching globally as well. And so you have the Google Play Store, you have no issues. You know, you can even use Google Pay on it, no issues whatsoever. And that was my decision to move into it. I will say though, if people think that the Galaxy S26 Ultra is a big beefy phone, you haven't held this phone yet, because it's roughly the same size, but the camera module on the back of this phone makes it feel like the phone's twice as heavy. You just got to get used to that. Other than that, it's been amazing going to this. But yeah, definitely some disappointments when trying to test out any other phone when opening the camera, just because it's not going to be anywhere as close.
I was about to say that you know, the one thing the Find X9 Ultra kind of has going for it is that I do like the design a lot more than Samsung's current design ethos, which it recently, you know, one of the VPs there recently came out and was like, oh, we love we think that's the core identity of Galaxy. And I'm like, it's like the most standard, like generic modern smartphone
The core
design,
identity is blandness. I got it.
Well, it's like it does sort of feel a little bit like you're insulting yourself here, but like it's weird to come out after many years of criticisms over like how stale and kind of generic your design is to be like, and that's our identity. Like,
right.
Okay, guys, if you say so. You know, but so like, I like that the Find X9 Ultra has like, you know, if we're talking about its photos, its design has a little bit of character too. I think it's like, I you know, and we've seen this obviously on OnePlus 2, which has its relationship with Oppo, but like the decision to sort of make the camera like the centerpiece of the design.
Yeah, the primary focus.
Be very striking. Well, and that's so much of what these phones are about anyway, that you might as well build the design around it. However, as you said, like, it does make it heavier. I have to imagine that phone feels at least a little top heavy.
It does. The nice thing is, so like you have this massive camera bump on the back.
You can rest your finger right there, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so like you could actually like balance it. I'm holding it up and I'm just balancing with my finger right underneath it.
And you know what? You holding it like that is making me realize, because the lens, I believe the lens is the camera flash is in the same place as well, that is how much it looks like the OnePlus Open.
A little bit,
because the OnePlus Open had that big
camera module,
centered camera module, as opposed to the OnePlus devices of the time, which had the round one, but it was not
over
centered.
To the side. Yeah.
And I did the exact same thing on the Open all the time. I would like just kind of balance it on my one finger, and it would sort of make whatever weight issues I had kind of go away, which the Pixel weird, because I find the Pixel 9 Pro and 10 Pro a little top heavy as well. And you would think with the camera bar, but because the camera bar is so high up on the phone compared to that, you can't really get the same sort of like balance comfortably, which is very like, I very, very nitpicky, very reviewer nitpicky. But when you use 1,000 of these devices, you start to really notice
the minutia that really makes the difference.
Exactly.
I will say with the placement, I'm sure they have reasons for it with the placement of the different cameras on the back of here. But the ultra wide is the one that's at the bottom, which it's pretty wide. So if your finger is right here, just sitting below the camera module, it shows up in your photos. You have to make sure you move it down when you're taking ultra wide pictures, or else your finger is going to show up.
That's rough.
And for my camera comparisons, a lot of times I flip it around to show you where you can capture video and photos of yourself with the ultra wide. And in the video, I think I showed one of them, but like I take so many that I edited a couple of them out that like my finger was like over the lip a little bit again. And like, I'm like, I lost half the video because my finger was right there. It would be better if it was on the top side just because of how wide the lens is, but
yeah,
it's the things you learn as you use the phone.
Well, I was gonna. It's like ultra wide lens placement is one of those things you don't think a lot about until you run into something like this, where you're like, why do I keep? Because it's happened to me on one or two other phones throughout my time reviewing things, where it's like, why do I keep capturing my like finger? And you realize it's like my finger's not on the lens, but like how I just hold phones naturally, or how I'm holding this specific phone is like not
ideal.
Does not apply to exactly. Yeah, not ideal for this design.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the design. So they have the two colors. They have this one here is the gray color, which is kind of like a platinum finish with a soft touch rubbery feel as well.
Yes.
Two-tone. And it has the Hasselblad branding right there. Hasselblad orange camera button on the side, kind of mimicking.
I like that.
Mimicking what the Apple camera button does. But it's the Oppo orange. And then if you look at the camera module on the side there, you see a highlight of orange there around the ring as well. And then if you want just a solid color, they do have the orange version. So you either have this two-tone or you have an orange version. Either one, they're going to be a whole lot better than anything else that you're going to get from Samsung or other competitors in the US.
That's the thing. I just like, I guess if it works, don't break it. But that is the thing I've never really understood, especially when you have devices like, the only success in North America Motorola has found is with the Razr. And I think the Razr's success is in large part driven by the fact that it's fun and fashionable in a way that, something like the Flip series, Samsung's Z Flip series is not really. They just kind of look like Samsung phones that are now that bend in the middle, right? Like,
and
I don't know, like
for the Motorola ones, I also think they found their niche once they started selling the cheaper version. And so like Motorola last week was very keen on informing us that they're the #1 seller of foldable devices in the US. And they're like the Motorola Razr, not the Razr Plus, not the Razr Ultra, the regular Razr, the cheap one, is the #1 selling device in the entire category, which does make sense. Like the phone is definitely appealing. It looks good. And also when, they sell it for, $800 right at launch, but a week later it's going to be on sale for $600 or, find it on another day and it's $550. That's a very compelling device at $550 versus somebody who's just going to buy another generic 100%. iPhone, right?
Well, and so you can basically wait for, and that's this year's prices. Last year's Razr was $100 less. So you were seeing that thing at $500 frequently.
Incredible.
It was like, look, like it's probably not as powerful as the at the time recent Pixel 9a or something. Like that's probably, if you're looking to spend $500, that's probably the like safer bet. But if you're bored and you really do want something kind of like fun for your next phone, like the Razr was good. The last, basically since they brought the cover display to the cheap model, so the 2024 and 2025 variants, and I assume the 2026 because it's the same phone.
It's just
it's the same phone. The budget one has always been my like go-to recommendation because I don't, especially if you're comparing the entry level model to the Ultra, I'm like, even then I don't think, if you're doubling the price, I'm not seeing double the value here. Like,
I would say my only drawback would be it's not going to be like, even on the high end, the Ultra isn't that great with photos and videos, and it's but it's a clear step down going to the regular Razr.
It is.
So like if talking about these Oppos and Vivo phones, like these are the ones you should buy if camera is your #1 priority, right? Like there's no denying that. But if you're looking at the Motorola Razrs, if you want a decent phone, the Ultra is going to be decent. If you want a crappy camera, go with the regular one. You have to be the type of person who doesn't really care, right?
And right, exactly. Which to a certain extent, I do think the clamshells sort of draw in that person because when the top of the line models, your Razr Ultras or your Flip 8s are still like, the camera's solid, like it's totally fine, it's usable. Like when that's your ceiling, it is easier to be like, well, you know, if I'm paying,
if that's all I'm
it would
losing.
be one thing if I was paying for excellent or even great camera performance, but if I'm just upgrading from mediocre to fine, is that worth
the money?
Same with the performance, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I could go grab, and they didn't upgrade the processor, so I can say this for both years, a Snapdragon 8 Elite powered Ultra, but what am I doing on this form factor that requires that much power? I'm sort of repeating what I said last week, but those phones aren't like comfortable to game on, so you might like the lower powered chip is fine for everyday apps, your TikToks, your Instagrams, and so on, gives you better battery life because it's sipping less power. Like it sort of ends up providing a more well-rounded experience for less money, as long as you're willing to take the shortcuts on the camera. And you know, again, as you said, if you want excellent cameras, you sort of have to look to devices like this, as opposed to even slab phones in North America, let alone foldables.
Well, and to be fair, the new Ultra now for Motorola is $200 more expensive than it was last year. I think it's $14.99.
Yeah.
If you decide to import the Oppo Find X9 Ultra, you can find it for about $15.50. So pay an extra $50 and get the best smartphone camera on the market, or get a mediocre phone that folds. I don't know.
It's
it's not much of a trade-off.
You're going to have to and you sort of, if you're shopping that comparison, if you've heard of Oppo, you're probably an enthusiast or whatever. So
100%.
You would feel comfortable. And actually, maybe this is a good pivot point. Like, you talk about those global ROMs, like, is using the Find X9 Ultra but you know what I mean? Like, is using Oppo software these days with these couple global versions out there, does it just sort of feel like a OnePlus device?
100%.
Like a slightly modified,
100%.
So like
the
it's not even an awful overall software experience.
No, so you're running ColorOS 16, which is what you're running essentially on the OnePlus. I mean, they might have, so this is 16.07. And since this is the flagship device, it's probably going to get more updates than, you know, the OnePlus is. And I mean, it's been the last 2 or 3 years where ColorOS has merged into kind of this single blob of software that, I mean, of course, there's, you know, the iPhone features that they're trying to clone, but out of all the Android OEMs, I would say, like, yes, they're cloning some of the features, but they're not making it look like iOS. Whereas, you know, Honor and Xiaomi, they have taken the liquid glass thing and like just plastered it all over the OS, that you're like, why are you even like doing this? Like, this is just ridiculous. Like, the features are there, they just still look a little bit like Android. It doesn't look as clean.
Yeah, the only one I can think of, at least on the OnePlus side, is they have that. They don't call it the action button, but I could not tell you what it's called on the OnePlus 15. But that UI is straight up just like for the UI for deciding what that button does is straight up just. But that's the only one. They don't. You're right. I don't love, you know, and I used Oxygen OS 16, but it's the same experience. I don't love that software upgrade. I thought it was a step back from Oxygen OS 15, but it is not full like liquid glass or anything. You're totally right.
Yeah, and you know, you win some, you lose some. Like for me, I always have I do like that ColorOS still allows you to fully customize the look and feel of the operating system. Like, you can do the custom icons, you can do custom fonts and all of that. So I always have my icon packs that I use on every device. And so people pick up my phone, you know, I was showing it a couple weeks ago to somebody and they're like, oh, is this what their software looks like now? I'm like, well, in general, yes, but all these icons, like I got some like retro flat icons for, you know, all the apps and stuff like that to make it look like it's something a little bit different, because I just can't stand the out of the box look, even for, even for the Pixel, that's the one thing that bugs me the most about the Pixel is that you just can't swap out icon packs. You have to install another launcher to do it.
Yeah. They rolled out those AI powered icon packs a few months ago, and I like tore them apart in an editorial because it's somehow more insulting than not letting me just do the customization myself, because it's like, okay, you're aware I want to do this, but I can't, like, by all means, if you want those AI icons, you can add that functionality in. I'm not going to like be mad about it, but can you give me the ability to, if you are aware I want to change my icons, can you give me the ability to change my icons? I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't very, like, the whole experience of using those tools is not very good. I can't imagine most people are even aware they're there now, because I don't think they do a good job of like, there are several menus deep in the customization things, and you have to kind of know they're there.
Yeah, and at MWC, I saw a couple other OEMs playing around with similar things. Select a photo and we'll AI generate some icons for you, which, like, the idea is good. The problem is where these AI software for design are still nowhere near where they need to be in order to deliver a finished product. Like if I would love it if they would say, give me a theme or a style, and then like give me 4 different options, right? Like select the theme.
Well, and that's how Pixel does it.
But then,
but
it still doesn't roll out like a cohesive theme for you.
Exactly.
Like there's still discrepancy, as opposed to the overly themed and engineered icon packs that are out there, right? There's always going to be a discrepancy. And that's where humans come out on top most of the time, is like we can actually have a coherent idea and carry through with it.
Well, and the thing I always loved about, like, and it's because I am often on Pixel, it has been a while since I've really heavily used icon packs, but like even back in the day, I really enjoyed that, like, okay, I found an icon pack I liked, but I actually don't like their Google Messages icon very much. Let me go swap to a different one of their icons that, like, maybe they've made a generic messaging icon I like more or something, which you can sort of do with the AI ones because you can regenerate them, but it's an annoying process. You have to like apply the theme and then go back, which doesn't show you all the icons you're going to set. Then you have to examine them on your home screen, be like, and this happened to me. Like, this isn't a hypothetical. Like, when I was testing it out, I was like, it shows you 9 of your randomly selected home screen icons, and you have to go like, based on that preview, I guess so, apply it. And then you're like, oh, but it was the letterboxed icon, which is 3 circles, like essentially a Venn diagram, but with 3 circles. And it had just like completely lost the detail. It didn't know what to do with the 3 circles because it was like a monochrome theme and the circles are different colors, and it just made like a white blob. And you have to like go back into settings, find that one, and just like regenerate it until you like it. I guess it's just like, it's not any smoother than using an icon pack from the Play Store. No. So I don't know what we're doing beyond sending out a press release that the Pixel has AI icons.
Yeah, I think like the concept is good. The execution is horrible. I will say the one thing that annoys me about icon packs is that icon designers can only design so many icons, right? Like, they're never going to have every single one for every single one of your apps. And so like I have just like random ones, and I'm like, that's like the original icon sitting there with all my other pretty icons. I'm like, really? Come on, that's the best you could do. But yeah, I mean, we'll never win this one unless, maybe in 5 years, AI icon packs are going to be good, but yeah, we'll get there.
And the other thing is that I'm a little hopeful. We've seen this leak of like new Google Workspace icons that are completely different from the like basic every Google icon looks the same and it's on a white circle sort of deal. And I'm really hoping this is like a sign of things to come for Android, that Google is leaving its very boring, very samey design icons in the past, but like we'll have to see if that's extending beyond. I mean, the icons haven't even rolled out yet, so like we'll have to see what that might be an IO thing since we're coming up on that. But who knows? I want to circle back to this because we brought up Oxygen OS and OnePlus, so I want to. That is sort of the closest like official experience you can get to using something like the Find X9 Ultra. And now the OnePlus 15 is not the same camera system at all.
No.
Down to the fact that it doesn't have Hasselblad camera color tuning anymore, color profiles anymore. But it is sort of providing US, North American users who are bored with the Samsungs and Googles of the phone industry an alternative that is somewhat like what you can get in China or Europe. What are your feelings about the sort of state of OnePlus, this like they might be dying sort of news story we're stuck in?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, when there was some reports a couple of months ago that I think were kind of blown out of proportion. A lot of us took a little bit of a step back and like, this isn't happening like these initial reports are portraying it, but something is going on with OnePlus.
Right, yeah.
But to be fair, OnePlus, like, even though we've had it in the US for years now and like as their original launch market, OnePlus was never that big. There was never really that relevant or, had the general consumer attention. Like I think the 1 year that they actually launched on T-Mobile was their best year ever. And then OnePlus realized, we have to pay all of these marketing dollars in order to get it into T-Mobile stores. And we have to back that up with, 10% revenue share. Yeah, and those.
I'm also sure T-Mobile's looking for sales numbers.
Yeah.
They want to see the phones actually moving.
Correct.
Yeah,
but like it was their best year in the U.S. market, and then they were like, maybe. Did they have 2 years at T-Mobile? I think
it was like two. It was. I think it was like two generations, and then because they also launched a couple Nord phones through T-Mobile.
Yeah, and then they were like, they pulled it back, and they're like, no, we're not doing that.
We're in Best Buy, and it's like
no one goes to Best Buy to buy their phone. But like,
I'm buying. If I'm going to Best Buy, I'm buying a router.
Right.
Like that's not what I'm going to Best
anymore.
Buy
You
for.
can't buy routers anymore, but that's a different story.
Well, that's
you can buy old routers.
I'm realizing twice now. I've said this before in the podcast, but I built the computer I'm using to record this right now. I built at the start of October, Nick. I bought the components for this at the end of September. And 3 weeks later, you could not do it. I got this close to not buying 64 gigabytes of RAM because I said, I can just upgrade from 32 later. Thank God I did. And then I'm realizing in like January, we upgraded our router to like a new like mesh. I finally bought us like a mesh router.
Yeah.
And like a month later, they're like, actually, what if you're not allowed to buy routers anymore?
Yeah, it's that's a whole nother story that I don't know. Like our world is falling apart for sure.
Well, and then
OnePlus is falling apart.
OnePlus is like, on that, I couldn't get over that. Like Netgear comes out and they're like, actually, our routers are approved. That's not part of this anymore. And everybody's like, what changed?
Nothing.
Like asking both sides of the like, why are their routers fine but everybody else's aren't? And they're like, we don't know what happened. Who knows what conversations and or things other than words were exchanged behind the scenes. I'm not insinuating satire and opinion,
right,
etc.
I don't know.
But just saying, very suspicious.
At least we know the administration is not in charge of OnePlus maybe not selling phones in the US anymore. Right? It sounds like that's not part of the deal.
No. Although who maybe they tried to do the Trump phone through OnePlus and OnePlus said no, and this is
then he's like, no, we're not going to do it.
You got to pull out of North America.
No, the one thing that's bugged me the most though is that the brand OnePlus was created so that Oppo or the BBK group could start getting a foothold in the United States market. That is the number one reason that the brand was created. And for those of you who don't know, 0 Oppo phones are sold in the US. 0 Vivo phones are sold in the US. TCL, Red Magic for some reason, and a couple other smaller Chinese brands are the only Chinese brands that are sold in the US, and they have such a small foothold. And And you can technically say Motorola as well, but the only reason Motorola is actually here is because the brand Motorola is a U.S. brand that was eventually
They're still in Chicago. It's just that they're owned.
Yeah, they were bought and sold 1,000 times, and now they're owned by Lenovo, which is a Chinese company that, IBM, they purchased IBM's, laptop business or computer business years ago.
Yeah.
And it would be great to see more Chinese brands in the US. I would love if there was actually some competition here, because we get the Samsungs, we get the Motorola's and a couple other crappy phones. Now we're going to lose OnePlus. And then all you have left is the iPhone, and consumers really have no choices. You walk into a European version of Best Buy and you walk to the phone display and there's 70 phones on display. It's ridiculous. And for brands you've never even heard of before.
Yeah, it's such an awful time in North America for phones, I think. Because I really, this is sort of a convalescence of a lot of problems kind of all peaking at the same time, right? So smartphone design, smartphone upgrades have been pretty stagnant in North America for much of this decade, really,
for
right?
Years.
Is the S26 Ultra that big of an upgrade over the S23 Ultra? I'm here to say not really. If you found an S23 Ultra for $400 or something, I'd be we talked about this last week with our guest last week, but it was if you find an S24, I mean, that phone still has 5 years of OS and
upgrades,
security updates ahead of it. Yeah. All of these devices feel the same. And then you have the RAM and storage, let's say the general component crisis on top of it, where now it's not just that these phones are essentially what was launched last year, but many of them are launching either at higher prices, downgraded variants, or both, right? We were talking about the base Razr, which goes up $100, but doesn't have is now 128 gigabytes of storage as opposed to 256 gigabytes. And that might be faster. It might be faster UFS speeds, but you're still cutting your storage in half and paying $100 more. And that becomes tricky. I mean, you talk about Apple, I'm so frustrated that brands like Google and Samsung have sort of ceded the best bang for your buck flagship space to Apple, where I'm Google comes out and launches the Pixel 10 last year at $800. They haven't upgraded the storage. It's you can get faster speeds if you go to 256, but the base 128 model is UFS 3.1, so on and so forth, $800. And then, Apple comes out with their iPhone 17 a month later, and they've fixed the refresh rate screen issues on the screen, right? It's got 120 hertz now, and it starts at 256 for $800, which again, a few months later Samsung launches the S26 and that's 256 but $900. And it's that's you guys are losing even the argument to get people in the door who might not want to pay for Apple hardware anymore.
Not paying the Apple premium. And that's the thing. That's what competition allows for. You let more people into the room, and in order to get noticed, you have to compete rather than just being, you have choice A or choice B. And I don't know, right now with these component shortages and the prices of RAM and the prices of storage going up, and that's honestly the main reason why the Motorola phones went up in price was, it's out of Motorola. Yeah. They did not want to raise the price of their phone. They wanted to be the value proposition there. But I swear we're going to see this across the board coming up this fall with the new foldables from Samsung and the new iPhone launches later this year, and probably
the rumor on the
Pixel
is that it's cutting RAM. Is that it's going, the base model's going to 8 and the Pros are getting a 12 gigabyte tier as opposed to 12 and 16 the last couple generations, and that's huge for Pixel, because it's
and they want to do all
your
this
whole
on
thing
device
is the AI.
Right?
You want to be the AI on-device phone, and now you're sort of because of the AI race, you are being forced to undercut your own hardware. It's very silly. You kind of have to step back and laugh, because otherwise you're going to be frustrated. But you have to sort of look at the big picture and be this is And for what, to a certain extent? Like, what am I, why am I paying $500 more for a Surface laptop so that Microsoft can continue to try to make Copilot work? Like, Copilot's not going to work. It's never going to, it will never be more than like Bixby for laptops. Like,
tip number 1, when you get a new Windows laptop, disable Copilot everywhere.
Dude.
Like, and your system starts running faster.
I mentioned this on some recent podcast, but as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I built this desktop. It updated recently, and I right clicked on something, and it suddenly had the Copilot option, and I was like,
no,
absolutely not.
Get away!
How dare you? First of all, I built the computer. I mean, I didn't build the computer because I didn't want Copilot, but if that was a benefit, certainly of like, and I can control that this won't have Copilot on it. And then suddenly it's there, and I've never raced for the uninstall button faster. When I saw that, I stopped what I was doing, and I was like, I got to go fix this now before I forget.
The best part is they have Copilot installed on Notepad. It's
and I use Notepad a lot.
Text editor. All I want to do is, most of the time, I'm just using Notepad to clean up text from formatting. Like, I copied and pasted text from somewhere else. There's this weird formatting. I got to get it into WordPress. Just copy and paste it into Notepad, and you put it in there. And then Copilot's like, "Do you want me to summarize this for you?" I'm like, "No, get out."
Can I improve your phrasing? And it's like, no. 1, you definitely can't. And 2, it's not even my phrasing. I'm just trying to copy and paste this. I use it. It's like a scratch pad for me. Like, that's when
just open Notepad, put some notes down. And
I at any time have like 8 to 12 tabs open in Notepad, including like the questions I had prepared to like talk to you today are in Notepad. Like I do, if it's not something I think I'll need past a few days or whatever. Yeah. Exactly. It's the perfect little space for that. And it's like, you guys do not need, I was fine with formatting. I didn't need it, but it's fine if you want to add formatting tools or whatever. But yeah, the second you start to add Copilot things, it's like, no. This is, and I think they're removing it. That's part of their announcement to make Windows better.
They're rolling it back. Not as many. It's not going to be embedded in as many applications, which, good. You've already done the damage. Like, people don't trust you already, but
it's so interesting. Like, I really, I'm not even really trying to sound like an AI skeptic here. It's more so that it is crazy to me, the like PR damage that these AI first companies have done to themselves and for no reason. Like, I don't really understand why. And then also, they're not like really reversing course. We're just sort of making like, you can feel it in the air that there is this sort of like, even people who use AI tools all the time, who use or ChatGPT all the time, are like, yeah, but like, I'm sort of sick of it landing in every application I use or something. Like,
well, there's a difference.
It's just
like,
interesting.
I'll be the first to admit that I do use AI quite a bit for research stuff. I've been using it for some photo editing things as well, just because. Sure. Just to give you a different idea of perspective. Like, I can edit a photo and make a photo look exactly like I want, but sometimes you just put it into Gemini's Nano Banana and be like, give me a different perspective on this photo. And it gives you something that you would have never thought of. And like, okay, I got that idea. Now let me do it, because you gave me some inspiration there. And then doing research. I think they're incredible tools for research, because a lot of times, like, I'm super involved in our local community and trying to get involved with the city and the city council, things like that, just researching, what's going on in the city. And a lot of times your only resource is local news, right? And you start searching through local news, and you start to realize really fast how bad local news actually is. Because a lot of times they'll publish a news article that's literally like 87 words long. Like, it just states the fact, and then they don't do any additional research to tell you, where was it 6 months ago, or where is it going to go next? It's just like, this was what happened now. But Gemini and OpenAI, ChatGPT, are really good at kind of finding information, especially locally, where it's just so little and so dispersed. And I love it for that. The problem is, you should never trust it to ever speak for you and try to articulate things for you, because that's where you get into trouble. That's where you get into oh, this wasn't fully fleshed research, and there's information in here that you're like, oh, you brought that in.
Well, and
you start
we've
stacking
seen
things,
that. I mean,
errors on top of errors, and then it just turns into a whole shebang of, oh, yeah, maybe AI is horrible.
I'm not, I believe it was an Ars Technica article a few months ago, and I'm not trying to call anybody specifically out, but like just to show that like this stuff does happen and does make it to print. That like there was an Ars Technica article, and I will edit out Ars's name if it's not. I will fact check this. I'm saying this to remind myself later. That essentially like the article was as generally correct, but like they had used an AI tool to like put it together or something. They had used a chatbot for some part of the research or fact checking or something, and it just made up a quote, and they ended up putting the quote from this person in the article, and then the person found out and was like, I didn't say that. Like I never said that. You have to be, and like the person that wrote it came out and said like, oh, I was sick. I was kind of rushing to put that we were on deadline. I apologize. This is my mistake. You have to be so careful with that stuff, which is, I'm so careful when I'm like, I am very like skeptical to kind of put my writing anywhere near this stuff once I'm really starting to write. It's one thing to do research, but I don't want it to change how I'm phrasing certain words. And I also don't want to have to like check it every step of the way, like babysit it. So for me, these tools are often best as like small utilities, like small little like, oh, this thing that I use, the example I use all the time, and I've certainly found more than this now, but it's at its core, the simplest one is like, how many times am I writing a review or an editorial and I get to a sentence that I know exactly what I want the sentence to be, but there's one word in it where I'm like, what is the word I'm trying to think of here?
You're like, finish this thought for me.
Exactly. I used to spend 5 minutes searching Google for like the word that means blank, and you'd get close to it, but not quite. And now it's like you can go to Gemini and be like, here's my sentence. You leave like a blank, like parenthetical. What word am I thinking of here? And 9 out of 10 times, it is the word I'm like, yep, that's the word I'm thinking of. The 10th time, I ask it one more time and it gets it right. But so there are utilities like that, and I use them for things like that. Little shortcuts with photo editing. Photoshop's AI upgraded remove background tool is like incredible. It saves me so much time. You can't build a $1 trillion business off the back of these shortcuts.
No,
is the problem.
I'll say the best AI tool that I use on a phone on a regular basis is the voice recorder app that will then dictate.
I mean, transcription in general is night and day now.
And then summarize.
Yeah.
And then, and like pretty much everybody's rolled it out so far. Like I think Google was one of the first to do the transcription, which was great. And then some of the Chinese brands rolled out the transcription and then summary. And now some of them you can do the transcription, the summary at the top, and then you can start chatting with it back and forth and ask it questions, and it'll pull up specific answers, queries from, whatever it recorded. And the nice thing is it's limited only to what you recorded. It's not going to hallucinate and pull in something else. I have noticed from time to time where it's like made something up that was slightly close to what it should have been, but it's like few and far between. And I think that's where, maybe sometimes AI just needs to be more limited, and then it's more useful.
Yeah. No, I think, and I was just about to say the word I had in my head was guardrails. Like, I do sometimes think the more guardrails, as much as this can be frustrating if you are trying to sort of, get to a specific place, if you are using it more so as a tool rather than a guide to a destination, having those guardrails and having the ability to be like, you are not allowed to, leave this like narrow space in which you're doing, tasks for me can be a lifesaver. Like I want you to do it's, I mean, even down to when Gemini or something like it's such an AI thing where it's like, here's the task you asked me for. By the way, do you want me to do this or this or this? Like, here are 4 follow-up tasks if you want. And it's like, man, I wanted one thing from you. Like, can you chill, So, but we've covered so much ground, and truly, you know, I mentioned my notepad questions. I think we got to 3 of them. So Nick, we will have you back on at some point.
Nice.
Because I'd love to talk more about like how you put your camera comparisons together, kind of a behind the scenes look, because you make it look effortless.
It's
if
a
people
whole
have not
lot of
seen
work.
Nick's, I hate doing camera comparisons. And so when I see someone like you just like crushing it, I'm like, God bless Nick Gray, because I can't be me.
I'd love to come on again and talk about camera comparisons, because honestly, that's what I've transitioned our video content over to, mainly just because everyone's doing reviews. And I know there's a lot of people doing camera comparisons, but I like to keep them pretty simple, yet show you everything that they can do at the same time.
They're in depth.
And I have a whole system. Like over the last 5 years, I've created a system of, okay, how do I make this as simple as possible for me to get the work done, but also deliver something that people are going to enjoy at the same time.
Yeah. So it's Phandroid on YouTube, Phandroid everywhere. Nick Gray, anything else to where are you posting online these days? Where can people find you?
So me personally, at Nick M. Gray, usually on Instagram, sometimes on, I don't know, Facebook for local stuff, because that's where the local news is. But yeah, I'm still, don't look for me there.
Nobody truly, this is going to be episode 30.
No one's ever said Facebook.
Nobody's ever said Facebook, but also I ask this question to everybody and nobody ever sounds confident. And I feel like throughout the 2010s, it was a very simple, like, I'm blank on Twitter. And it is just so funny that I'm like, where can people find you? And everybody goes, geez. Well, I'm sometimes here. Technically, I have a profile on Mastodon, but don't use that.
Never on Mastodon. I have never created an account on Mastodon. Never will. No Blue Sky. That's like,
yeah. There we go. Go to Phandroid. Go to YouTube.
Go to Phandroid. Unfortunately, I hate to have to say that, it's Phandroids on Instagram, because someone stole our name one time a whole long time ago. So add an S at the end, you'll be fine.
Yeah, it's the opposite of the Justin Timberlake drop the add an S.
Yes,
it's
just
cleaner.
add an S.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That'll do it for this week's Sideload. Thank you again to Nick for joining me. You can find a link to his YouTube channel in the show notes below, and make sure you check out everything over at phandroid.com. As always, you can find, rate, and review us on the podcast platform of your choice. Share the show with a friend if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to 9 to 5 Google on YouTube, where you can find full video versions of every episode of the Sideload, plus all of the excellent work being done by Damien and Jordan. As always, the best place to reach me is will@9to5mac.com. Feedback is always welcome, as are guest suggestions. And if you haven't, go check out 9 to 5 Google's other podcast, Pixelated, where Damien, Abner, and I chat through the week's news through a Google and pixel-friendly lens. Next week is Google I/O. I think I'm going to try to get Ben Schoen on again to do a I/O preview of sorts, but that sort of depends on the sore throat thing, because truly, I'm not joking, every word I say right now hurts quite a bit. So hopefully look forward to that. If that doesn't happen, we might end up taking a week off just because of scheduling. But one way or another, we will be back in the next couple of weeks to talk all about Google I/O. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.